and the central Bahamas. And these are the areas affected with the hurricane force winds during the next 12 to 24 hours. And here you can see on our satellite picture bands from the hurricane now moving into the Turks and the Caicos here and the southeast Bahamas. Here's your morning visible shot, and here you can see the big swirl with our hurricane, which is moving off to the west-northwest. And the big question is, where does the storm go from here? It has been moving west-northwesterly, and with that continued west-northwesterly movement, it would threaten the southeast coast of the United States beyond 72 hours. But all indications are that it should start to turn more towards the northwest with time. But we do strongly urge all residents along the southeast coast from Florida right up to the Outer Banks of North Carolina to keep up to date with Hurricane Bonnie.
Tropical weather systems are affected by so many variables.
We constantly monitor the situation.
If someone is safer by watching the Weather Channel, that's what it's all about.
This program was sponsored by the Home Depot.
Home Depot is like 5 stores in one.
Well, Home Depot's ideal really is to make sure the customer gets what they need.
This is not a little hardware store. They only have 5 of one type of thing. We have 100 of one type of thing.
We're very proud of the selection we can offer people.
You're going to find name brand quality products.
It's a one-stop shopping place.
You can get all this stuff here at Home Depot.
Tackle any job with Campbell Hausfeld Air
Texas. This is an area extremely close to where the center of Tropical Storm Charley came ashore about 3.5 hours ago. Good morning, I'm Will Annan, and welcome to Weather Center. Tropical Storm Charley is becoming more of a rain event and possibly a severe weather threat in Texas for the rest of this upcoming morning. And Hurricane Bonnie is strengthening as it moves through the Atlantic towards the Bahamas. We get the latest on both of these systems right now from Rick Griffin and Steve Lyons. They're in the Forecast Center.
Thanks a lot, Will. Very quickly here in late August, the tropics have become busy, and we have 2 significant systems to tell you about on this Saturday morning. The first one is Charley, and Tropical Storm Charley is now moving inland over southeastern sections of Texas. The latest coordinates, if you are plotting the storm along with us, the latest position, 28.2 north, 97.5 west. That puts the center, as of 7 o'clock Central Time, 10 miles north of Corpus Christi, Texas. Top sustained winds, as you may notice here, have gone down from 60 miles an hour earlier this morning to 40. That is a sign of the landfall and the weakening process that happens when these tropical systems move over land. Charley continues to move northwest at 10 miles an hour, and pressure is beginning to rise. One significant effect of Charley has been the very heavy rainfall, 11 inches in parts of B and Refugio County in Texas, producing flooding. Rivers are high, the Aransas River and the Palacios River. And Steve Lyons, who joins us right now, you think that flooding could be a major concern from now through the balance of today, as a matter of fact?
That's right. It looks like there are a couple of bands. One is over just north of Galveston. One is over Brazoria County, right. And then, of course, we have the big blob of thunderstorms that's down there near the center of the circulation. And it's not moving very fast. That's the major concern now. Looking at satellite imagery, we see a big fluff of outflow aloft, so I think we're going to see a lot more rain.
And as well, you were mentioning that even though winds near the surface may be on the decrease, there are some higher elevations inland Texas that may experience gusty winds today.
That's right. The higher mountain areas of Austin, hill country area could get some gusty winds as well.
All right, thank you, Steve. We'll come back to Steve in just a moment to get the latest on Hurricane Bonnie. But right now, let's take a look at our tropical storm warnings, which remain in effect along the Texas Gulf Coast. And by the way, they will be discontinued later as Charley decreases below tropical storm strength. Enhanced satellite picture. Once again, as Steve mentioned, the outflow aloft. You can see the feathery appearance of the high cirrus clouds, and that, among other things, will promote the heavy rainfall. And it has been heavy rain over parts of Texas, B County, Lavaca County, Refugio County, and also up in Brazoria County. Radar shows the heavy rain. That's out of San Antonio. This radar out of Houston. And the Houston radar shows the heavy bands of tropical downpours out in the Gulf moving northwest in your direction. So get set for additional heavy rainfall today. Well, stationed live on the scene in Port Aransas, Texas, is our own Jim Cantori. Jim, what's the latest out of coastal Texas?
Well, Rick, again, down this way, we continue to see the waves come on in. As a matter of fact, you could actually drive on the beach here, and we have had a few breakers which have come in. There was just enough of a wind change out of the east that brought in these waves, and they've kind of done a little overwash here on the road. But the surfers have managed to make their way on in. Right now they're out there enjoying some of the wave action. We'll kind of pan out along the boardwalk here and show you these folks. But they were out first thing this morning enjoying what appears to be some 4 to 6 foot breakers. But last night it was incredible. So many shrimp boats made their way in. Some of the seas offshore 12 to 15 feet as they came in last night in just droves. But so far so good here.
Live scenes from Port Aransas, Texas. That's just south of areas hit by Tropical Storm Charley. We'll have a live report on and more on Florida's East Coast.
Had an increased amount of phone calls checking our plywood supplies and getting pricing.
Hurricane Bonnie is creating a storm of activity for hardware stores in Brevard County, Florida. People there are preparing for the worst. Good morning and thank you for joining us in Weather Center. I'm Marnie Stanier. Tropical Storm Charley and Hurricane Bonnie are making for a very active weekend. There's also plenty to talk about in the upper Midwest. More on that in just a minute. But first, let's turn to Bruce Edwards in the Forecast Center with a closer look at Texas and Florida.
Thanks very much, Marnie, and good morning, everyone. Indeed, after a slow start, we're now really getting into action as far as the tropical season is concerned. 2 storms, one of immediate concern, and that is of Tropical Storm Charley, working its way onshore along the Texas coast. And as of the last update at 7 a.m. Central Time, Charley was centered at 28.2 north, 97.5 west, or 10 miles north of Corpus Christi, Texas, onshore. Working its way northwest at 10. Top sustained winds have now fallen off to 40 miles per hour from 60 when it made landfall earlier this morning. And the central pressure is 1,004 millibars of pressure beginning to come up right now. And Charley is continuing to work its way inland. There are still tropical storm warnings along the coast from Sabine Pass down to Brownsville, Texas. But those will likely come down now that Charley is moving farther and farther inland. Speaking of on the Texas coast, Jim Cantori has been stationed at Port Aransas, Texas this morning, and he's filing reports. Good morning, Jim. How's the situation this morning in Port Aransas?
Well, good morning, Bruce. Things, again, not faring too bad here, but sometimes it's after the storm moves onshore that we can have a lot of the damage, and that's not so much with the surge, but more or less the rainfall. And that's our big concern this morning, especially in northeast Texas up through Brazoria County, B County. Reports out of B County, already 11 inches of rain. But let me show you back here along the pier, which is detachable, by the way. If there's a serious storm here, they can actually remove pieces of this pier and save it with a forklift. But basically, it's just surf's up time. You can see the sun coming out over the horizon. We've been on the south side of the storm just about the entire duration, so we didn't have too much of a problem with storm surge and whatnot here. But really, it's been more of a thrill than not for most locals as they've anticipated these waves with the storm, and now they're getting out to actually do a little surfing with them, like this gentleman right out here. So he's having a good time, as are many out here today. And I think in all, it's kind of brightened a lot of folks' weekend more than dampened it. So some good news. But we do have to concern ourselves with upstate and the threat for severe weather and flooding. And no doubt that could be a problem as we go on in time. And then as this moisture makes its way west, Bruce, towards San Antonio, that area has been hit very hard in the last couple of weeks with tremendous rainfall. So once you get this tropical moisture in, it doesn't just disappear. It has to go somewhere. So we'll have a couple of days here where this area is going to rain itself out. But, hey, this could be maybe just a teaser. I mean, I'm not saying Bonnie could make its way on shore, but that's a whole different animal than a tropical storm, and that's something we may need to be thinking about soon. Back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Jim Cantori, reporting live from Port Aransas, Texas. Now, Jim mentioned the rain and the flooding potential, and that is indeed a serious threat. The flash flood watch is posted for all of south central Texas. A look at some of the rainfall totals from earlier this morning, and again, we're seeing totals ranging from 4 inches or so down to about 1.5 inches to 1 inch. But again, there's been some locally heavier amounts estimated around the coast of Texas, and over the next 24 hours, we could see 5 or more inches of rain fall because of this system. Here's the radar, and once again, with this tropical system centered to the north of Corpus Christi, you can see the bands of moisture just feeding on into Houston, and again, they're
checking our plywood supplies and getting pricing.
Some people say they aren't worried about Hurricane Bonnie yet. Others are raiding hardware store shelves as Bonnie intensifies. Along the Gulf Coast, surf's up. Things are calming down some as Tropical Storm Charley is downgraded to a tropical depression. Hello, and thanks for joining us in Weather Center. I'm Marnie Stanier. Good news for folks on the Gulf Coast. Tropical Storm Charley is now known as a Tropical Depression Charley. Elsewhere in the country, a possibility for severe weather is with us in the upper Midwest. More on that in just a minute. But But first, let's turn to the Forecast Center. Bruce Edwards with more on our storm.
Thanks, Marnie, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, depression, that's a good word, because still some depressing weather going to be coming from Charley as it continues to churn into south central Texas. And we have another hurricane, this one a powerful one, Bonnie, to talk about in the Atlantic. There is a look at the situation. You can see both storms, Charley over Texas and Bonnie out over the tropical Atlantic. Dr. Steve Lyons has joined us here in the Forecast Center. And Dr. Lyons, again, a very active weekend already is shaping up.
It sure has been, and lucky the tropical storm has landfallen and it's basically fizzling out now, but the effects of it with rain have not.
That's right. The last update from the National Hurricane Center, this is what the situation looks like. We'll get it up there for you in just a second. There it is. The 10 a.m. advisory, Tropical Depression Charley right now is what it is called. It is centered approximately 65 miles east of San Antonio. It is moving northwest at 14. The winds have dropped off to 35 miles an hour. It is no longer a storm. It is a depression. No further advisories will be issued on this system itself. Port Aransas, which is south of where the center of the tropical storm came on shore, saw surf's up dude, so to speak, today as they were on the south side and the quiet side of the storm system. The surfers loved it, and the surf was churning, but very little in the way of rainfall. Really, it wasn't all that bad at all south of where the center made landfall, which was just north of Corpus Christi, Texas. But the surf is going to churn up, and it'll be a little angry for the next couple of days or so, much to the delight of surfers. Now, as you get farther north into Galveston, likely to see a little heavier surf, and they've seen a little bit more in the way of rainfall there on the north side of the storm where we've seen the majority of the wet weather so far. Now, we do have the flash flood watches on for much of south central Texas, and that's going to be the big threat from this point on.
That's right. It's primarily a rain event now. There may be some lingering winds, especially in the thunderstorm activity, but primarily rain, and we still have some pretty good rain bands coming in off the coast of Gulf of Mexico.
Well, we see some of the rainfall totals that we've totaled as of this morning, and again, fairly substantial amounts, 1 to 4 inches thereabouts, but we've had some radar estimates of even more than that around the coast of Texas. We could see 5, 8 inches of rain yet from this system. And again, that's too much in too short a period of time. We can see on the radar that those rain bands still extend way out into the Gulf of Mexico.
That's right. We've got the center somewhere up in here, and all the moisture is coming up around the system like this. And you can see here's a good band coming in over here, right in this area here, another one over here. And these are going to continue to produce a lot of rain here. Also up here just south of San Antonio, that area has been hit pretty hard the last couple of hours. So still a lot of rain out there, and still a little bit rough and dangerous for mariners out in the Gulf of Mexico.
And of course, residents that know they live in a flood-prone area should be very, very cautious because conditions could change rapidly.
That's right.
All righty, the second system we're looking at, of course, is a much more powerful system. That is a hurricane. Hurricane Bonnie is its name, situated out in the tropical Atlantic. And as of 11 a.m. this morning, Bonnie was centered at 22.7 degrees north, 70.6 degrees west, or 95 miles north.
Good morning. You've joined us on an active day at the Weather Channel. Bonnie, a hurricane in the Atlantic, continues to intensify. Charley was downgraded to a depression earlier, and we have a threat for severe weather in parts of the U.S. and the upper Midwest. But now, with more on Bonnie and our depression, here's Dr. Steve Lyons.
Well, thanks, Marnie. We've got some interesting things to do here. Let me show you the latest information on Hurricane Bonnie first and get that out of the way. You following that or tracking it. At 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 22.7 north, 70.6 west, or 95 miles to the north-northeast of the Turk Islands, which is basically right there. Moving to the west-northwest at 15. That slowed down a little bit. Remember, it was moving 24, 20, 17, now 15, but still on that same track. but we do expect it to make a more northward turn here soon. I'll show you that in just a minute. Currently, hurricane warnings are out for the Turk, Caicos, southeastern Bahamas, and the central Bahamas, and a hurricane watch is out for the northwestern Bahamas as the system moves up toward the northwest the next 24 hours or so. Now, the latest satellite imagery here, here's the circulation center right here. We have a thunderstorm, big thunderstorm mushroom that's blown some cirrus clouds over the top of the eye, so you don't see the eye all that clearly here, but there is an eye here, a well-defined eye, and the intensity is continuing to strengthen. It's moving over warmer water here. You can see that eye better on the infrared satellite imagery here. You see that little warm spot right there. There's the eye. A lot of shower bands now moving over the Turks and the Caicos Islands here. Some gusty winds in there. They should be very careful. Hopefully they're hurricane prepared out there. And as it moves up toward the west-northwest, we're a little bit right now uncertain to whether or not it's going to turn northwest soon or not. Now, the official Hurricane Center forecast takes it basically up into this general area here, away from the South Florida coast, and of no immediate threat to the U.S. coastline. However, you should be prepared for anything, and it's just possible that that turn may occur a little bit later, and it could affect the coast of the United States down the road. It's a little too early to tell. Right now, we're hoping this westerly wind flow here is going to produce a weakness just to the west of the hurricane, and have the hurricane steer up to the north, to the east of that weakness in the upper level flow. But we have not seen that yet, so we'll keep you informed on that the next 24 hours. And you should pay attention all along the East Coast if you have any interest along the coastline. Now, we had Tropical Storm Charley. It's gone inland, a tropical depression. All the tropical storm warnings along the coast have been canceled. It's moving to the west, to the northwest at 14. You can see on the infrared satellite imagery and the visible satellite imagery here first, still a lot of shower activity and rain activity here. And you can see here in the infrared where the primary bands are. Big band here, big area of thunderstorms right in here also. And so there's still a lot of thunderstorm activity there and a lot of rain. And we can see that on our storm total precip just since 8 a.m. this morning. Some of the rain areas here. Here's Houston up in here, Galveston here. These feeder bands moving in. And so we're getting on the order of 1 to 2 inches, more than 2 inches just since 8 a.m. And out in the rest of the Atlantic, we've got another system out here we're going to have to monitor the next couple days as well, and a hurricane in the Pacific that I'll talk about next.
Hi, this is meteorologist Jim Cantori in Port Aransas, Texas. We'll let you know what Charley's impacts have been on the Texas coast. That's coming up on Weather Center at the bottom of the hour.
It's okay. She'll be back in 3,000 miles.
Don't touch me.
Cars. We know them. We love them.
Check your yellow pages for a Valvoline Instant Oil Change Center near you.
This is one of those new Volvos with all-wheel drive, right?
Yes. It's our newest safety feature, designed to help keep you out of an accident.
So how come you don't put it on all your cars?
All our cars.
Like Subaru does.
Subaru.
Every Subaru we make comes with the safety of all-wheel drive. Every wagon, every coupe, every sedan.
So only one Volvo has all-wheel drive, but they all have cup holders.
Yeah.
Subaru, the beauty of all-wheel drive.
Test drive the beauty of all-wheel drive at a Subaru dealer near you.
Now those fantastic restaurant onion creations can be made right in your own home. Introducing the Great American Steakhouse Onion Machine. It's easy, it's fun, and it's oh so onion delicious. Don't confuse the Steakhouse Onion Machine with those hard-to-use plastic gadgets that only do small onions. You start with a nice large onion, trim and clean, then remove the center. Place the onion under the stainless steel blades of your Steakhouse Onion Machine and push down. You'll have a